Alright, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm your host for today, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V. And we got a Week 10 recap, plus some player spotlights here on this week's episode. Only 4 games in the NAIA ranks as we are approaching the postseason here. We'll have a little postseason talk. I know the KCAC just ended the regular season this last week, and so their postseason will actually be over the weekend. And so I'll talk about some of those matchups ahead of that tournament. But let's go ahead and talk about these 4 games here real quick here. I mean, some of them have some pretty big implications, I would say. And then some of them, I mean, you know, they're kind of at the end of the season. They're not affecting too much outside of, you know, players getting more playing time and, you know, just seeing what some teams got and how deep they are and what kind of situations they could battle back from. Still a great week of flag football, to be honest with you. A very good week of women's flag football here in this 2022 season. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And let's talk our final KCAC regular season women's flag football game of this 2022 season, and that is Cottey versus Midland here. Cottey traveling up to Fremont, Nebraska to go ahead and, you know, finish up their season. Midland hosting one of their few games this season. I was looking through their schedule, and they didn't really get to host many games this season. And so, you know, this was a good one to have at home to kind of end before they travel to Ottawa here, I assume, over the weekend for this postseason tournament, as that's already locked in. But not too crazy here. I mean, spoiler alert, Midland beat Cottey 32-6. Last week, I believe they played, and Midland won something like 50-0, 60-0. And so Cottey did a little bit better, but it just quite wasn't enough here. And so let me kind of break down what happened here real quick. Midland would actually go up big here in the first quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns. Haley Stanton actually got the start in this game, which I thought was very interesting. I like that she got some playing time here. She had one other start this season versus Ottawa, and she only played 2 or 3 drives in that game, and that was like 2 months ago. And so this would be her second start here, and she did a pretty good job here, as you know, she was responsible for 3 of these first quarter touchdowns. The first one was Haley Stanton throwing it to senior Casey Thompson. By the way, it was senior day for Midland. Casey Thompson is Midland's only senior this year, but definitely a big contributor to that team on offense, defense, whatever, as she does put up a lot of production for the squad. But Stanton does find Thompson here on senior night for the first touchdown of this game, and then after that, Haley Stanton would lead a couple other drives here where she rushed for 2 of those other 3 touchdowns in this first quarter. Now, there was kind of a interesting interception between her first and second touchdown. She did throw a pick to Danielle Goodrich, just made an excellent play on the ball. Probably wasn't the greatest decision here, but that's okay. That's why you have these games, to work through some of those things here. But a great interception by Goodrich. Didn't matter, though, as Morgan Kalisic for Midland would go ahead and intercept this ball and get the ball back for them. And that will lead to her second touchdown of the day. Now, the second touchdown of the quarter. Now, the third touchdown of the quarter was set up by a Cheyenne Duran interception for Midland here. That interception thrown by Emily Kane. And so that's how Midland would get their third touchdown here in this first quarter. So boom, boom, boom. Real quick, 3 touchdowns to go ahead and go up by 3 scores here early on here. In the second quarter, Cheyenne Duran would snag her second interception. Midland wouldn't be able to capitalize on this one, though, as they would go 3 and out. After that, the teams traded interceptions. Alyssa Hollis, she came in for Cottey. Cottey kind of rotating quarterbacks here, and she would get picked off by Allison Malfair. Then Angel Ioane, she would come in for Haley Stanton here, and she would get picked off, ironically, by Cottey's quarterback and DB, Emily Kane. And so they traded a couple interceptions. Probably not the cleanest game here. You got to understand also up in Nebraska, it's pretty windy and whatnot, and so passing the ball is generally not the greatest idea up there. Eventually, though, Alyssa Hollis would run in a touchdown for Cottey. She also had a career high and school record high 123 rushing yards this game. I think that's important to point out here, plus this rushing touchdown. So that's definitely a bright spot for Cottey here. But after that, Angel Ioane would respond with a nice 47-yard touchdown throw to the speedster Sade Irvin, aka Turbo, who made it a 26-6 game. And at this point, this game is pretty much over here. Later in the second half, Haley Stanton would run for her third touchdown of the game, resulting in a 32-6 dub over Cottey here. Now, just a couple stats to go over here. Midland, Haley Stanton at quarterback, 2 of 6 for 21 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Obviously, didn't pass the ball a lot, only 6 attempts here, but did throw a touchdown, so that's always a good thing there. Interception, like I said, probably wasn't the greatest decision, plus the wind was a little tough there. I mean, just in general, probably shouldn't have done that, but that's okay, working through that. Did have 13 rushes for 52 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, so a nice 4-touchdown game for Haley Stanton here. Definitely in Playmaker of the Week consideration. Angel Ioane, 4 of 10, 73 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, as they, got her some snaps in there as well. Sade Irvin had 4 receptions, 73 receiving yards, and a touchdown, including that big 40-plus yard gain there. And then this defense had 5 interceptions. Allison Malfair, Cheyenne Duran, Casey Thompson, and Morgan Kalasek all each had an interception. And then the lone senior on the squad, Casey Thompson, led the team with 14 tackles to go with that interception. Now for Cottey, like I said, just honestly not too much going on here. Did play 3 different quarterbacks. Offensively, still kind of struggling here. Defensively, they did better. They had some opportunities, but, this is a team that is a little shorthanded while these players are playing both ways. That fatigue sets in kind of quicker than for most teams, but that's all right, though. Alyssa Hollis, though, 18 attempts, 123 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Those 123 rushing yards are a school record. Now, here's the funny thing. April 23rd, 12 p.m., quarterfinals. We have Midland versus Cottey once again. That's just how it matched up here going into this tournament. And so Midland here, they've had the last couple of dubs. They haven't lost to Cottey this season, or really ever, in program history. They won 60-0 on April 9th. Just a couple days ago, they won 32-6 here. So, they should probably beat Cottey here in these quarterfinals, but you never know. Anything could happen here. Cottey will obviously be playing with a lot of motivation. Obviously that score has gotten better as the weeks have went on, and so don't get it twisted. They're very familiar with each other, and I think that'll benefit both teams. And so we'll see how this quarterfinals go, but definitely, definitely probably favoring Midland here if I had to bet on it. We'll see how that goes down, but that'll be April 23rd. Like I said, 12 p.m. Are those quarterfinals. I believe that's Central Time, so depending on where you're listening to this, or where you're from and you're listening to this, you could figure it out from there, because I know we have listeners on the West Coast in Colorado, and obviously on the East Coast, and then Central Time, Kansas, Nebraska as well. So yeah, 12 p.m. Central Time, that's when Cottey versus Midland will face off. I believe stream links will be available. Just check out that KCAC network. Now, we'll talk more about this KCAC tournament when we talk about power rankings, because not too much really changed here. But let's go ahead and hop into some Sun Conference action here late in the season. Let's go ahead and talk St. Thomas versus Florida Memorial here. Florida Memorial, they haven't won a game since playing Midland. But, going into this game here, they definitely played a couple of the top teams in the Sun Conference pretty close. going back to March 31st, only losing 0-19 to Kaiser. That's a much closer game. That was a 2-score game going into the fourth quarter there, and so that was a very close one there. Against Warner, they only lost to them 7-20, another close game. And then last week on Thursday against Thomas University, they lost to them 6-7. Had a chance to win it at the end, but just could not get it going offensively. And so this Florida Memorial defense has been cooking. They've been cooking a little bit. They have great athletes over there that can match up very well with pretty much any team in the country. Really what it just comes down to is, that offensive production. And it's not just the quarterback or whatever, even though they've had pretty much a ton of struggles at quarterback. It's pretty much the entire offense, I would say. Just trouble finding consistency here throughout the season. And so that's kind of the story going into this. On the other hand, though, you have St. Thomas University kind of on a little bit of a heat streak since losing to Thomas University 0-13 on March 24th. Since then, they've beat Warner 13-12, beat Weber International 25-6 as well. And so going into this game, they're looking to, win the battle for Miami Gardens here. And so here's kind of how this one went down here. So to start the game, St. Thomas goes ahead and forces a pretty easy 3-and-out on this Alliance offense here. And honestly, there wouldn't be too much action in this first quarter in general. The St. Thomas offense kind of struggled to get going here in a little bit. Wasn't really until the second quarter where Rayona Baker had a very nice 40-yard reception to go ahead and put them in the red zone. She would end that drive eventually with a touchdown here. And so that would go ahead and give that would go ahead and give St. Thomas a quick little lead here in the first half of that game. Right after that, Florida Memorial, they're on offense, and Tashumba Washington, by the way, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, plus one of the front runners, if I do say so myself, easily one of the best DBs in the game right now, goes ahead and gets her first of 3 interceptions in this game, and so goes ahead and gives St. Thomas the ball as well. After that, Tyler Bryant goes ahead and scores on the first play of that following drive here. Just a wide open pass down the right, making it a 12-0 game. So they didn't get the conversion, after that first touchdown, but they do get it after the second one with Rayona Baker going ahead and tiptoeing in the end zone for this one. So making it a quick 13-0 lead. Just like that. Now, right before the half ended, Tashumba Washington would go ahead and grab her second interception of the game, ending another Florida Memorial drive. So 13-0, very good lead here going into the second half. In the third quarter, not too much going on. Florida Memorial stalling a little bit. St. Thomas not scoring, not having too many big plays here either, as so far most of their touchdowns have came on big plays here, or big splash plays. But in the fourth quarter, this is where St. Thomas takes over here. Tashumba Washington does grab her third interception of this game. Rayona Baker will then grab her second touchdown of this game, extending the lead to about 19-0. After that, they don't allow Florida Memorial to score. They give the ball back to St. Thomas, and St. Thomas would go ahead and drive that nail into the coffin with a Destiny Francois touchdown, making it a 25-0 game. And that would basically be the end of this game, as St. Thomas once again wins the battle for Miami Gardens, 25-0 here. Tashumba Washington, 3 interceptions this game. Rayona Baker, she had 2 touchdowns. Destiny Francois also had that big touchdown as well. And so St. Thomas is feeling pretty good here with a very nice 25-0 win. Defense playing very well, getting some nice turnovers here and whatnot, as they probably should, not even go lie. And then Florida Memorial, hey, offensively, that's really what it comes down to. Defensively, really not even that bad. Going into the fourth quarter, it was like 13-0, right? So I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for, but you do gotta eventually score points. That's just what it comes down to. So, anyway, St. Thomas, you know, or sorry, here, let me say one more thing about Florida Memorial. I believe that is actually their last game of the season. They will not be playing in the Sun Conference tournament. They only take 4, and so they will probably, hopefully, be playing in the national tournament, which I believe is in Atlanta, Georgia this year. So we'll see about that. St. Thomas, though, you know, they do have one more regular season game against Kaiser this Saturday, April 23rd at about, well, it says 12 p.m. Eastern time. So there you go there. Then after that, I believe St. Thomas is also in this Sun Conference tournament. We'll talk about that probably next week. I believe Cody Stoffer will be on the podcast for that. And so, yeah, we'll preview the Sun Conference tournament next week, most likely, since it will be happening next week and not this weekend. But, yeah, there you go. That's St. Thomas versus Florida Memorial. St. Thomas winning 25-0. All right, now, the next game that I want to talk about here is Thomas versus Webber International here. Well, actually, next 2 games here that I'm going to talk about are both Thomas games, and this would end their regular season. And then for Webber here, who I'm about to talk about, and then Warner, who Thomas plays in this next game, this will be their second to last game, as Webber and Warner does play later this week on April 23rd. But let's go ahead and set the stage here. Thomas hosting here. You know, Thomas in a very good spot. I mean, obviously the #1 team in the country. Escaped a scare, not gonna lie, against Florida Memorial, 7-6 here the last week, hitting a little bit of an offensive slump here, but undefeated is still undefeated. Obviously, before that Florida Memorial game, they beat Kaiser in a close one, in a thriller, 19-18, and then even before that, beat St. Thomas on March 24th, 13-0. And so Thomas feeling pretty good, as they should, being the lone, or sorry, I don't know if I said undefeated. They're not undefeated, but being easily the lone #1 spot here, #1 team in the country, as they've proved themselves over and over again, beating adversity. And so Thomas feeling pretty good about themselves going into this game. Webber, on the other hand, you know, there was one other team that did beat Ottawa that same week that Thomas did, and it was Webber. Webber actually beat them by more, 31-0 here. And so Webber, you know, they kind of turned around their fortunes here mid-season, capping that week off with a big 31-0 dub over Ottawa. They went ahead and kept that momentum going against Florida Memorial, beating them 32-0. And then they played St. Thomas and lost to them 25-6 on April 7th. And then after that, they played Kaiser on April 14th, lost them 32-13. Kaiser won 32-13 here. And so, slipping just a little bit here, you know, obviously losing to good teams here in St. Thomas and Kaiser, 2 teams who will be in the Sun Conference tournament here. And so, there's nothing to be ashamed of there. But, you know, playing this game against Thomas, obviously, it's a chance to knock off the #1 team in the country, but also they need to win this game to make the Sun Conference postseason tournament. They need to win this game and then their last game to win it. And so here is how this thrilling game went down here. Not gonna lie, kind of a quiet one to start out here. So to start this game out, great defense by Thomas. They forced a 3-and-out on this drive here for Webber. Janae Scott almost got an interception on this drive. And so Thomas, they take over on offense, but a high throw by Shelby Hartley on 3rd down is intercepted by Suzanne Kaufman, who just makes an excellent diving interception for this one. And so Webber takes back over on offense just like that. But this Webber offense is just struggling to complete some passes, as this Thomas defense, you know, they're playing well. And so a couple incompletions later, Webber does punt it back to Thomas here. But Thomas, you know, they're in a little bit of an offensive slump here. Only scored 7 points against Florida Memorial. Like I said, a good defense, but still only 7 points. Going into this game, they're definitely struggling here. And so Hartley, she finds, I think, Wilcox on 4th and 5, who goes in and gets the first despite being blitzed, and so they get a little bit of something going right before the first quarter. Now the second quarter here, Hartley aims for Brittany Delva one too many times. Aimed for her one time. I think the ball was incomplete there. The second time though, it was intercepted by Weber, and so Weber takes over on offense here. But on offense, Weber, they're trying to get something going. They're working that short game here. And then Jada Reese for Thomas gets a huge sack on third down for Thomas. That would essentially force a 3 and out. They weren't going to go for it on fourth down in their own territory here. And so that was just a great play by Jada Reese just to get to Sam Wilson here and force that basically force a turnover on downs. Basically. And so this punt is actually pretty short, and so Thomas actually takes over just a couple yards outside the red zone, definitely in Weber territory here. After a penalty, Hartley finds Margarita Pena, who gets a couple more yards to go ahead and make it a fourth down here. But Thomas, before they even attempt this fourth down conversion, which is like a fourth and short here, like 4th and 3 or something like that, they go ahead and hit with a false start. And so this fourth down attempt ends up being a punt, unfortunately. And so, they kind of pin Weber back here just a little bit here. I mean, they weren't going to be able to go for it here. It would have been too far. And so Weber, they're trying to find something going. Sam Wilson, she does find Kayla Burrows for a nice 10 or so yards. This brings up a third and manageable here. But once again, for the second straight drive, Jada Reese comes up with a huge sack on third down, getting her second sack of the day and forcing yet another Weber punt. Thomas here, unfortunately, they go 3 and out on offense. Specifically, also missing a big play over the middle to Margarita Pena on first down. That would have definitely jump-started this offense. The ball just wasn't a good one, and so unfortunately, Thomas, they go 3 and out, and they punt right after the 2-minute warning. Weber, though, can't get anything going as they also go 3 and out and punt it back to Thomas with 40 seconds left. After that, basically nothing happens, so they go into half 0-0. So as you can see, great defense by Thomas. I would say Jada Reese ending 2 drives almost single-handedly. I say almost because there are other downs that happened, but she came up big on those downs. Thomas, this offense just struggling. Honestly, just kind of a lot of incompletions and a lot of penalties kind of just hurting them. Weber, on the other hand, it kind of feels like can't get a first down as, this Thomas defense, they're keying in on these short throws, forcing them to throw it short, and then they just come up and make the tackle. So they're not giving them much breathing room. But going into the third quarter, Kiana Cole is in at quarterback. She gets the start. And thanks to a couple rushing yards and a nice 5+ yard run by Janae Scott as well, they go ahead and get a first down, get some momentum, just a little bit here. But after those plays, though, a dropped pitch and just 2 tough throws, as in incompletions, basically, caused Thomas to punt the ball. As, like I said, they're just misfiring on offense today. Kind of just in a little bit of a, slump offensively. And so, and speaking of offensive slumps, Weber, they're trying to get out of one of their own here, even though this Thomas defense is playing really well and keeping them in this game, Thomas in this game. But Wilson does find Kayla Burrows over the middle for a nice 10+ yard reception, getting a little bit of momentum here and a first down on that play. After that, Wilson finds Burrows on first down for another 5 or so reception. And so here we go, it's third down here, but Jada Reese goes ahead and gets her 3rd sack of the day on third down. This forces yet another punt for Weber. It just wouldn't have been smart to go for it on 4th. And so Jada Reese ending a 3rd drive on third down here. And so there you go. So far in this game, all her sacks have been on third down, which is really interesting. They probably planned it that way, to be honest with you. But anyways, on offense, right before the 4th quarter, Cole has a nice 10-yard scramble. Also gets some penalty yards after that first play of the drive. And so they get a couple more yards here, but unfortunately an illegal contact penalty and a dropped pass for Thomas would eventually force them to punt it, as they just cannot get it going here. Now, it's 0-0 going into the fourth quarter. I mean, someone eventually has to score. I mean, like the announcers said, you know, as time goes on, we get closer to somebody scoring because this game is kind of coming to a close here. Now, Weber, you know, they have plenty of opportunities, you know, but this Thomas defense is just playing really well. On the first drive of this fourth quarter, Weber goes 3 and out thanks to just great flag pulling and good play recognition, too, by this Thomas defense. That's what they're known for, and that's what they do. And so Thomas here, they actually start in Weber territory on offense in a pretty good spot here. Hartley finds Margarita Pena for a first down on the first play of the game on a nice little spot route here. After that, Hartley throws it to Kiara Knight, who makes an excellent, and I mean just an excellent, diving catch for a 10-plus yard reception to go ahead and get Thomas in the red zone for only the second time today here. And so here we go. They're in the red zone. They throw 2 straight incompletions. Just both misfires, not even bad like reads. I think they were the right reads. The ball was just not quite there. And so this brings up a third down here, like I said, in the red zone. On third down here, Hartley finds a Cole, who then flips it to Giselle Jones, who gets it to about the 4-yard line on a nice little play here. They also call a roughing the passer penalty on Weber here on that play, and so that also actually gets them a fresh set of downs in the red zone, because keep in mind, they're already in the red zone. You know, they have their 4 downs. They hit third down. That play with Jones and Nicole and Hartley happens, and then this penalty gives them 4 more downs to work with here, and they're on the 4-yard line. And so a couple plays later, Kiana Akol punches it in on a short rushing touchdown to break the 0-0 game open, taking the 6-0 lead for Thomas. After that, Akol finds Janae Scott on a nice little drag route for the conversion, making it 7-0 with 6 minutes left in this game. Weber, they have plenty of time here to get something going, but Jada Reese strikes again and gets her 4th sack of the day on second down, making that this third down 3rd and 20. Jada Reese just being an absolute wrecking ball for this Weber offense here. They, like, every time it feels like they get something going, Jada Reese is there to take away their happiness, it feels. And so that's kind of what they do here. But Weber, you know, they do complete a pass to Burrows, but Giselle Jones is waiting here. It was a short pass to Burrows, and so Jones pulls her flag, and that makes it 4th and 16 here. Weber at this point, it's 1 third down conversion too many, and so they kind of have to go for it here on 4th and 16 as time is running out here. Wilson would then flip it to Sierra Harris, looking for the double pass, but guess who? It's Jada Reese who comes in and shuts down this play immediately. I believe this is her 5th sack of the day, and also her I lost track at this point. I want to say this is her 3rd or 4th drive of the day that she's shut down here, as Thomas goes ahead and takes over on downs. Just a very big play by Jada Reese to go ahead and grab Sierra Harris's flag before anything crazy could happen here. Now Thomas, this is the exact position they love to be in. They're in Weber territory. They're up 7-0. You know, they're in control of this game. And so 2 Kiana Akol runs and 1 Janae Scott run eventually brings up 4th down at around the 2-minute warning here. Weber basically used almost all of their timeouts except for 1, I believe, at this point here. And so here we go. That's 4th down here. Obviously, they're going to go for it. They're not going to punt it, as, you know, there wouldn't be any need here, really. But Kiana Akol, she does take a shot here. I think this one was probably planned, though. She does take a shot into the red zone, or just short of the red zone, I should say. Caleb Burrows would go ahead and pick this one off pretty easily here, but her flag is definitely pulled very close to the goal line here, so it definitely felt a little planned here. Instead of punting it, you know, a lot of things could happen here. They decide to just throw it to a defender and make sure that she's down on inside that 5-yard line here. And so Weber here, they have the whole field to go, but they have the ball, you know, and they have a timeout, I want to say. Used almost all of them, and so they do have a chance to, you know, go ahead and potentially tie this one off. But on first down, Brittany Devil almost picks this one off, almost a pick six even as well. On second down, Sam Olsen snags just a tough snap, kind of a really high snap, almost, almost was bobbled here. And as you know, if the ball touches the ground, the ball is, the ball is dead there. And in this case, if this snap was dropped, it would have been a safety. But she corrals it and throws it deep to somebody, hoping her receiver will get open. But the receiver just doesn't. I mean, it was also kind of triple coverage as well. So just good defense by Thomas here. And then after that, it's third down here. They throw it to Breeza Robinson, who goes ahead and actually gets loose. Splits a couple defenders. Has one defender to beat here. At this point, she's gained a good 20 or 30 yards. But she pitches it outside here, and she gets a little too greedy here. As Giselle Jones is here for it, she is in position, and she intercepts this lateral and almost returns it for a touchdown here, but is downed at the 1. Doesn't matter though, as Thomas goes ahead and kneels this one down. And just like that, they are your Sun Conference regular season champions in their first year as a program, after winning this game over Weber International 7-0 in another thriller here. Thomas, man, they fought and fought every single game here this season. There's really no game that they are out of, no game that you could really count them out of, as they just execute very well on offense when needed. And defensively, I mean, that's kind of their strong suit here. They have a lot of trust in their defense. They will put the game in their defense's hands, and that's a dangerous thing to do. At that point, you're not asking your offense to do too much here. Sometimes a touchdown, just like this week and just like last week, is enough to win it here, and that's wild. A single touchdown is enough to win it, and that's just how good this Thomas defense is. As for the second straight week, they score 7 points, and they win against a very good Weber team here. Weber, on the other hand, reeling just a little bit, but not that much, though. I mean, well, first off, I gotta address this. With this loss, they are out of the Sun Conference postseason tournament here. They needed to win this one and their next game to make it, and they're just not going to be able to compete in it this year. And so now the focus turns towards nationals for them. This is a Weber team that has talent. We knew that. We knew that. To hold Thomas to 7 points here, and only lose by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, by the way, that's pretty good. Defensively, they played very well. Got to give them their credit there as well. Offensively, I know they throw that short game and all that, but they just misfired a couple times too many, had too many third and longs here. Took too many sacks as well at quarterback, which you just can't do. You have to get that ball out faster, at least get something, because, Jada Reese here, she had 5 sacks in this game. 3 of those were on third down, and I want to say she also basically ended 3 or 4 drives, as she did get 2 sacks on a drive, just because these sacks would come on third or fourth down, and I mean, those are basically death sentences to offensive drives here. And so they're gonna learn from this one, for sure. Here going into this national tournament, they shouldn't be counted out. Actually, in fact, any Sun Conference team really shouldn't be counted out. Really, any, college team shouldn't be counted out, because they are, playing on the college level for a reason. But this Weber team has talent. We saw they beat Ottawa 31-0. They came within a touchdown of beating Thomas this season. They came within a touchdown of beating Kaiser this season, very early on, February 26th, lost to them 13-20. So it's not like this is a Weber team that just can't compete, because they definitely can. So just want to give them their props here. Probably won't be talking about them until we preview nationals here in a couple weeks here. And so I just want to make sure I get all of that out here. But anyways, Thomas does win this one, 7-0. Like I said, Jada Reese had 5 sacks, definitely a Playmaker of the Week type of candidate. Janae Scott, a Defensive Player of the Year type of candidate. One of the front runners here, had 11 tackles this game. Keanu Akol, 11 rushes, 43 rushing yards, and that touchdown to win it here. So there you go. You know, Thomas, they go ahead and be your Sun Conference regular season champions after winning this close game here. Now, they have another game here, and that's against Warner. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So this Thomas versus Warner game, that was the second game of this doubleheader here for Thomas. Warner, I mean, you know, they would have needed to win this game probably and their next game to go ahead and make the Sun Conference tournament. But with Weber losing to Thomas here, Warner actually goes ahead and makes the Sun Conference postseason tournament under their first-year head coach. So congrats to them. But regardless, there's still a game to be played here. Thomas is not, I mean, like, they would still be your Sun Conference champs even if they lost to Warner here, I assumed here. Which, that situation, that reality almost happened, and so let's go ahead and talk about it. You know, this game was kind of a thriller, a classic one, just like that last game here against Weber. Instant classic, if you want to call it that here. And so to get this game started here, no surprises here, Warner would score in the first half, and have the only score of the first half thanks to Madison Tingen finding Cynthia Holmes on a nice 20-yard touchdown, making it 6-0. After that, nobody would score here. This Thomas offense kind of, you know, still in a little bit of a slump. This is kind of the game that they're going to use to go ahead and get out of this offensive slump, as you will see later on here. And then this defense was playing very well against this Warner offense here after that first score on that first drive of the game. So let's go ahead and jump into the second half here, where the fireworks begin. Thomas would go ahead and get on the board thanks to Shelby Hartley finding Brittany Delva for about 23 yards before Delva pitches it to Giselle Jones, who would make a little run here, would run that last 8 yards in for a touchdown, and they would also get the conversion thanks to an Akol bootleg, making it 7-6 with about 10 minutes left in the third quarter. So there you go. After stopping Warner on the next drive, Thomas would then come back on offense and score thanks to a Keanu Akol rushing touchdown, making it 13-6, having a nice little lead here going into the fourth quarter. Now, in the fourth quarter here, it's still the third quarter here. So in the third quarter here, Tingen then finds Cynthia Holmes on 4th and goal for a touchdown here, so that's pretty big here for Warner to stay pretty close here, keep them in it, but a drop conversion by Holmes does make it only a 13-12 lead. Thomas still leading here. Now we're in the fourth quarter here, and Jasmine Pollock for Warner would go ahead and get a nice interception. And you know, Thomas, you know them, they were probably trying to run out this clock as they do have the lead, use as much of that clock as possible while potentially scoring another touchdown here. But that all ends when Jasmine Pollock gets a nice interception to go ahead and get Warner started here in the red zone, actually. And this drive would eventually end with Tingen finding Cynthia Holmes on a nice fade route, I want to say, in one-on-one for a touchdown to go ahead and take that 18-13 lead here. Now Warner, they decide to go for 2 here. They want to make it a 20-13 lead. And so here's what happens, because it's kind of crazy. I believe there was a unsportsmanlike conduct, some type of penalty like that, personal foul penalty, that would go ahead and move Warner up here before their first attempt. And then on that first attempt here, you know, I believe it was a hold. They would go ahead and have a second attempt at this 2-point conversion, but this time, instead of trying the 2-point conversion from the 10 or so, they're at the 3. You know, and so a couple penalties here by Thomas kind of puts them in a little bit of a tough situation here. And, you know, as you could probably assume, if something could go wrong, it will go wrong. And Tingen goes ahead and finds Homs for this 2-point conversion here, making it a 20-13 game with about 2 minutes 58 seconds left in this game here. And so Thomas, you know, they're running a little bit short on time here. They need a score here first off to tie it up, or at least hopefully tie it up if they could get the conversion, and then they would need to get another stop to go ahead and potentially win this game. And so that's what they have to do to win this game at this point. And so here's what happens here. Thomas, they work down the field, do a very good job at doing that, by the way, and they get into the red zone. A defensive holding penalty on the Royals, fortunately for Thomas, would give them a couple more downs to work with here in the red zone. And so they continue to chip away at this defense, and eventually it results in Keanu Acol finding Janae Scott for the touchdown. But here's the thing that would be really big, because they have to get the conversion here just to tie this up. You know, let's not talk about taking the lead or anything like that first. They gotta get this conversion to tie this up, because if they don't, then Warner could bleed out this clock and win this game just like that. So they go for one here. They don't want to go for the win. They go for one for the easier conversion, and they do not get it. And so it is 20-19 with a minute 30 seconds left in this game. Thomas basically needs to force a 3-and-out here. And so that's what they do. Just like that, they force a pretty easy 3-and-out here. Couple incompletions by Madison Tingen here. If she completed a couple more of these, maybe a couple more seconds would have obviously went by, and then they would have been in a easier situation to go ahead and attempt a 3rd or 4th down conversion. But fortunately, Thomas, they forced the 3-and-out, get the ball back with about 52 seconds left. And so they don't have to drive the length of the field, by the way, because it was a punt and they got it around midfield. And so they're in a pretty good situation here, but Warner is still in a position to stop them. One stop ends this game. You know, Thomas, they need to score a whole touchdown to win it, obviously, because field goals aren't a thing in flag football. And so in a very smooth, commanding, and collected way, Shelby Hartley, she's in at quarterback, and in this game she was struggling a bit, not even gonna lie. I believe she threw like 4 interceptions or something like that in this game here. But at this point, on this drive, it does not matter. Those 4 interceptions can't lose you this game right now, because she has a chance to win this one. And so in a very Tom Brady-esque fashion, if I may say, you know, very collected here, she drives down the field, gets them into the red zone. I think there's about 20-ish seconds left. I think they have 2 timeouts, so she does a good job of getting them right on the edge of the red zone. That is probably the hardest part of that drive, just getting them close to the red zone in that red zone. And so she does that. You know, they run a couple plays here, a pass plays that is, and they call their timeouts here. Completes 2 pass plays in a row, I want to say, to make it a little bit more of a manageable, conversion here, because it is 4th down territory here, obviously. And so here's how it goes down. I believe it's either 3rd. Actually, it's 3rd down here, I want to say here. And Shelby Hartley, calm, cool, collected, finds Keanu Acol for the touchdown reception to go ahead and give Thomas a commanding 26-20 lead. They don't get the conversion here, and so, like I said, you know, Thomas, they love putting the game in the hands of their defense. You know, they have about 20-ish, a little bit less than that, seconds left in this game here. Warner, you know, they have a chance to potentially score. They just need a touchdown, you know, and we've seen Hail Marys completed before here. Hail Mary was actually completed on Warner, in fact. And so this game's not over. And so Warner, they get the ball. Thomas, they're on defense here. And guess who comes up big for this Thomas defense? Yes, it's Jada Reese with 1 more sack. In fact, the game-ending sack to go ahead and shut this one down here, as Thomas completes the comeback, scoring 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of this game, basically here, to win this one 26-20 over Warner University, and an instant classic, an instant thriller here for this honestly great Thomas program that already has such a great history after this one season here with all these thrilling games. Like I said, this game, honestly probably didn't matter as much outside of, for Thomas breaking out of this offensive slump, and then for Warner making sure that they have a little bit of momentum going into this Sun Conference tournament here. So Warner, they're not out of the Sun Conference tournament. This doesn't affect them in that. Probably doesn't even really affect their power rankings either. But regardless, puts up a very good fight against a talented Thomas squad with the #1 defense in the entire country. And so Warner, if you're Warner, you have to feel pretty happy about, the position they're in. But also, I'm just going to be honest, they've had a couple leads in the fourth quarter that have been blown here. And so time management and being a little bit sharper on offense to use a little bit more of that clock would probably go a long way in helping them out, in the long run here. And so there you go. Warner, they put up a great fight here. Obviously, they have a lot of talent. We'll see how they look going into the Sun Conference tournament. But before that, they actually play Weber International on Saturday, April 23rd. And so there you go. That game's going to happen. So yeah, But Thomas, on the other hand, hey, another electrifying dub here. Let me just read out some stats. Shelby Hartley won 23 of 27 for 229 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning one. Did though 4 interceptions, but like I said, still threw the game-winning touchdown, so you have to be pretty happy about that. Her only incompletions were those interceptions, so there you go. Jada Reese, another phenomenal performance here for Thomas. 4 sacks, 4 tackles here. Janae Scott also led this Thomas defense with 9 tackles, 3 pass breakups as well, as this Thomas squad completes the comeback, beating Warner 26-20 in an absolute thriller, proving once again why they're the #1 team in the country. Man, they are rolling right now. At this point, I mean, they've shown that they could win in multiple different ways. They don't necessarily have to be leading going into the fourth quarter to win, but also if they have the lead going into the fourth quarter, it's dang a lot harder to beat them because they're gonna bleed that clock as much as possible and then just play good defense because they're very well coached, have great play rec, and they're gonna put you in situations that they want to put you in. Honestly, even when you're, getting receptions and yards, you're still probably playing to their defensive game plan, which is insane. So, kudos to Thomas for them winning against Warner here, and also beating Weber too. 2 very tough games here, but it doesn't matter. They finished out strong. The postseason now runs through Georgia. Winning this last game here does allow Thomas to host basically the entire Sun Conference tournament at home for their team. And then I believe also the Nationals tournament will be in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to say it is. So regardless, Thomas doesn't have to travel outside the state of Georgia again this season. That's got to feel pretty good. That's got to feel pretty good. They'll get to stay at home, use their own training facilities and whatnot, and not have to worry too much there. But yeah, that was basically week 10. All the games here in week 10. The episode's not done yet. We still have a couple more things to talk about, including power rankings. Which is, I'm just going to be honest, this is going to be a very short segment. Nothing really changes here. Because basically all the teams that needed to win basically won here. And so, just so you know what the power rankings were, these are last week's power rankings, but they'll be this week's power rankings. Thomas, easily #1. They've faced every challenge presented to them, and they've overcome every challenge presented to them. What other team deserves to be at #1 than them? So, until they lose, and at this point, if they lose, if they lose in the Sun Conference tournament, they're out. If they lose at Nationals, if they lose in tournament play in Nationals, because I'm sure they're going to have some type of pool play, then they're out. So here on out, losing really isn't an option for Thomas, and they won't be #1 if they lose. Someone else will obviously be, so that's just how it is. At #2, we have Kaiser. Didn't play this week, will play this weekend though, I want to say, so we'll talk about that later. But they're at #2. #3, Ottawa, like I said, didn't play this last week at all, but they will play this weekend here to defend their KCAC conference title, so we'll see how that goes. St. Thomas here, very good dub against a tough Florida Memorial team that has a lot of athletes. I think they deserve to be here. Weber, hey, played Thomas real close, but too many missed opportunities on offense. You lost 7-0. So there you go. That's why they're at 5. At 6, we have Warner. They didn't lose 7-0 to Thomas, but they definitely had their chances to put this one away after going up by a touchdown and after stopping Thomas from converting on that extra point there. So, you had a couple opportunities here, but, on the bright side, you're making... you're making this Sun Conference tournament here. There's probably an argument for them to be at number 5. We'll see here. Weber does play Warner this weekend, so that'll affect our power rankings then. How about that? But regardless, though, Warner, they're in the Sun Conference tournament here, probably as the bottom seed, though. At 7, Kansas Wesleyan didn't play this last week. At 8, St. Mary's didn't play this week. At 9, FMU, kind of wish they maybe had a little bit of a better showing here against St. Thomas. But, it wasn't a bad game. The final score looks a lot worse than what it was. Going into that fourth quarter, it was a 2-score game. So, there you go. 10, we have Midland. Good dub against Cottey. Started Haley Stanton, so that's good. Gave Angel Ioane a little bit of a rest there. So they're gonna, they're gonna play Cottey again for like the 3rd straight time this weekend. Speaking of Cottey, they're right behind Midland at 11. Another tough loss. Not even like a close one, just a blowout. Offensively, at quarterback, they kind of need to figure it out. They just haven't really been able to find a quarterback. It's definitely been a little bit of a quarterback carousel there these last couple games. So there you go. Oh, and then Milligan, they're at 12 here. They're not going to play any more regular season games. Hopefully they're at nationals, though. So we will see about that. But those are your power rankings. Nothing really changed here. Even these next... I would say this week and next week, don't expect a lot of changes. Depending on if Warner could beat Weber, then maybe Warner moves ahead of Weber. But, that's not necessarily the biggest changes. We're heading into the postseason, though. So there's some things that could go down that, hey... we'll see. And so let's go ahead and talk about the postseason here as, one of the big NAIA conferences will have that going this weekend. So let's go ahead and preview the KCAC tournament, postseason tournament for this weekend. And so here are the matchups, and I'll also drop times for these matchups as well here. But, and this is according to, each of these teams' websites, by the way. But Kansas Wesleyan, they'll be playing the University of St. Mary here at 3 p.m. Central Time. They'll be playing them at 3 p.m. Central Time here on April 23rd. The winner of that game will play the winner of this Ottawa versus Midland/Cottey game. And so, okay, here, that probably wasn't the best way to explain this, but Midland versus Cottey, they're going to play. Winner of that game plays Ottawa. So, there you go. And then, in these semifinals here, you'll have Ottawa versus whoever wins that game, and then you have St. Mary's versus whoever wins this Kansas Wesleyan game. Winner of those games go ahead and play for the conference title here. I believe 5 p.m. Central Time is when that conference championship will start. And so, looking into the St. Mary versus the Kansas Wesleyan game, I'm going to talk about that one first, because that's the interesting one here. Look, USM, they definitely gained a little bit of momentum before heading into this postseason tournament. They beat Midland in a thrilling fashion, 20-14. Blew out Cottey 52-0. Got all their players out there. But looking at this Kansas Wesleyan games here, they lost to them at the beginning of the season, March 18th, 34-12. They lost to them a couple weeks ago, April 1st, 27-13, only losing by 2 scores. And then they did have a 21-point lead, a 20-point lead over them on April 5th, going into the second half, before Kansas Wesleyan scored 21 straight points and beat them. And so, looking at this matchup, Kansas Wesleyan has beat this team 3 times. I would probably say, just odds-wise, this isn't factual by any means, not really, but odds-wise, it's probably harder to beat a team 4 times than for a team to, beat another squad 1 time. So we'll see. This will be a close one. Don't get it twisted. This will be a close one. A lot of good offensive players. If you love offense, you're going to love this game, I would say. For Kansas Wesleyan, Brianna Hernandez-Silva, quarterback, senior. This is her last chance at a conference title run. This will be big for her. So we'll see how that goes. She's also probably one of the leading rushers in the entire country. You also have Angel Roman, YLI, all these great athletes for Kansas Wesleyan. For the University of St. Mary's, same thing. I mean, you have Shannon Galbraith there. She has an arm. She could scramble also a little bit. Her receivers are great as well. You have Caroline Simpson, the freshman, who's been tearing it up for them. You have Ashlyn Tuss. You have Jerica Johnson. And then potentially, you have the return of their number 1 receiver in Shannon Cooley, I want to say here, who has been out for basically the entire season with an injury. Now, is she confirmed to come back? No, I'm not going to say anything about that because I don't know. I don't think she is confirmed to come back. But you got to think, she sat this whole season. She's got to be close to coming back eventually here. And so, this will be a good matchup here for sure. Whoever wins this one will probably play Ottawa, honestly, in the conference title. On the other side, you have Midland versus Cottey. I think, like I said, I'm probably going to go ahead and side with Midland here. Nothing against Cottey, but, it's one thing to beat a team a couple of times, in a season. Another thing to blow that team out, the 2 times you saw them this season. One time 60-0, the other time 32-6. So Midland should probably win this game. But if you're Cottey here, honestly, you're looking to play spoiler. You do not have nothing to lose here. This team blew you out the last couple weeks, so there you go. But this is the postseason tournament. It's a bigger deal if Midland loses than if Cottey loses. And don't get it twisted, Cottey, they have some players. They can lock up defensively, Can they make you pay if they force a turnover? I don't know, to be honest. But they can lock up, so we'll see how that game goes. And then finally, whoever wins that game plays Ottawa. Shoot. Don't get it twisted. It's not a foregone conclusion here. Foregone, whatever. Conclusion here. That, Ottawa beats whoever comes out. But Ottawa has beat Cottey College 60-0 and 55-0. They've also beat Midland 41-12. And 41-0. One of those times they started their backup quarterback. So against Midland. So we'll see. Maybe they're just caught off guard. But also they'll be at home too. Gotta keep that in mind. They'll be at their spot. So I would probably guess that Ottawa beats whoever comes out of this Midland Cottey matchup. And then they play either Kansas Wesleyan, who Kansas Wesleyan talent-wise is really close to them. I would say scoreboard-wise, it doesn't really show. They've beat Kansas Wesleyan 39-6, 41-6, and 45-19 here. Kansas Wesleyan had chances in some of these games, but just couldn't find a way to get it done here. And so, they have that edge over them, but on any given day, it could happen. I wouldn't rule out Kansas Wesleyan here if they do make it. And then you have St. Mary's, who I feel like is really close to that level, maybe just slightly a tier below, depending on whether their starting receiver comes back or not. Shannon does come back, though, then it's on. It's on. You have 4 or 5 receivers that you absolutely need to be great flag pulling, or they're going to burn you. So there you go. So that's probably what I'm seeing here, either an Ottawa versus Kansas Wesleyan game, conference championship, or Ottawa versus St. Mary's conference championship. But we'll see. Anything could happen. It's the postseason. This is where the fun begins. Honestly, this is where the fun begins. So we will see about that. Now, some other games to look out here for this last week 11. I believe the only games left is Kaiser versus St. Thomas, which will be a good one. And then it's going to be Weber versus Warner. They're going to play. Not that any of these games here at the end matter outside of just getting, playing experience. Yeah, actually, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. And then after that, we have the Sun Conference Tournament. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. I believe starting on the 30th of April. So there you go. That's your Week 11 preview here. Alright, now real quick, let's go ahead and talk Week 10 Playmaker of the Week here. Like I said, not many games, only 4 games, and so just going to go down the line here, talk about players in consideration. But Casey Thompson from Midland is in consideration, had 14 tackles, had an interception this game, also had a touchdown in this game as well, so good for her. Deshumba Washington from that St. Thomas versus FMU game, Jesus, 3 interceptions. This is her second time grabbing 3 picks, I want to say. So, there you go. And then, honestly, out of both of these Thomas games, Jada Reese, 5 sacks in that Weber game, 4 sacks, Jesus Christ, in this Warner game. Killing it, absolutely here. But I think I'm going to have to go ahead and give it to Jada Reese here. I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, in this Weber game, 5 of these sacks basically won them the game. 3 or 4 of these sacks were also drive killers too. So there you go. Same thing kind of goes for this Warner game as well. I mean, she did get the game-ending sack. And so for her performances against Weber and Warner, having a combined 9 sacks in one day, which is wild, Jada Reese from Thomas University is your Playmaker of the Week. Also, as of right now, speaking of Playmakers of the Week, Thomas University with multiple Playmakers of the Weeks this entire season basically here. Janae Scott won it one time, I want to say. Britt Delva, she won it earlier on in the season. So, I mean, hey, if you're winning Playmakers of the Week, you probably have playmakers on your team, and you're probably a team that should be feared just a little bit. But like I said, any team can lose once this postseason hits. So, and if you lose, it's done. So yeah, there you go. But for now, I believe this is extremely well deserved and probably the biggest no-brainer here. Jada Reese is your Week 10 Playmaker of the Week from Thomas University. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and skip end of the year award updates. I mean, you heard it. If you've been listening to this episode, you heard about it. Had a lot of depoy action here for the most part here. We'll pick up the end of the year award race updates after this KCAC tournament. But for now, I actually want to go ahead and kind of switch gears here. So as you all know, obviously, this is the second year of women's flag football on the NAIA level, and, each year, more teams are going to join. This last year, we had Thomas join, and look at where they're at, Sun Conference champions. This next year, we're going to have a lot of teams joining. Fort Lauderdale University, that's one. Reinhardt University is another. Graceland University, oh my gosh, there's one that's called CU. I want to say it's Cambridge University. And then on top of that, you have JUCOs as well that will be starting their programs and whatnot. Oh, Heston College as well. I want to say that's in Kansas. That's a JUCO, Actually, I meant Bethel College up in Kansas. That's another 4-year university that will be joining. And so you have a lot of new programs joining. And that means a lot more players to cover, a lot more interesting games to cover, and that's exciting. And so on this episode here, I want to showcase some recruits here, seniors actually, so class of 2022 flag football players that will be part of an inaugural team. And, that team will be Reinhardt University, so consider this a little bit of a Reinhardt University spotlight here. By the way, they're over up in Georgia, and so I just want to, go ahead and give them a quick shout out to them. But they'll potentially be looking to challenge Thomas for the state of Georgia here. Potentially, we'll see, but here are a couple recruits that I want to do a film breakdown of, spotlight real quick, that I believe will kind of be big for them. And so, first, that starts with Ashlyn McKinley quarterback, played for Grayson High School with them. I believe they were just 2 or 3 games outside of the state championship when they got eliminated from the playoffs. So a pretty decent run, you know. She made a pretty decent run with that squad over there. Ashlyn McKinley for Grayson was an all-region quarterback, was also a MVP of the year, I assume for 2022. Also, she's a fantastic student with a 3.9 GPA. Super smart. Super smart. You know, out of Atlanta here. Or at least that's what it says on her Twitter. And so, you know, Ashlyn McKinley, she got recruited. She committed to Reinhardt University over there. And she plays quarterback, obviously. And so, I mean, I'm not going to make any assumptions because I'm sure they're going to bring in other players here to compete for that quarterback spot. But, you know, she may potentially start for this Reinhardt team at quarterback. So let's go ahead and talk about her game here. Here's some things that I really love about her game. Number 1, footwork. Just in general, that's one word, but you know, there's a lot of things that go to footwork here, and she just has a very quick and precise footwork here. When she's scrambling out, she does a good job to set and throw. You know, when she's maneuvering around, it's very precise, calculated for sure. She doesn't have, like, I guess, many inefficient movements when she's trying to evade defenders. She's very clean with it. Top of that, that also adds to her elusiveness as well. And so her footwork is just very nice for the most part here. Yeah, so there you go. Another thing I really like about her game is that she does a really solid job throwing against pressure. She will stick it out to complete a throw, and she's very aware as well. It's not like she's oblivious and she's just gonna throw it and she doesn't know that defenders are there. Like, she senses them, but you know, if needed to make the big play, she will go ahead and stick it out and complete a throw here. And so, on top of just being very good throwing against pressure, and she does deliver some pretty good balls when throwing against pressure, by the way, solid enough. You know, I like her awareness a lot as well. I think that ties into her ability to throw against pressure. So there you go. Another thing I really like is that she does a very good job maneuvering around and buying time to throw the ball. She won't roll all the way out or just keep fading backwards, losing a lot of ground. You know, she'll sidestep. You know, she'll sidestep. She'll back up, move up in the pocket. Like, she's very efficient. You know, she'll buy herself an extra half a second to get the ball out and then get the ball out. And so she just does a very nice job maneuvering around and buying time, very composed. You know, that's definitely something that could be a little hard to teach some quarterbacks if they haven't figured it out by now. But, you know, there's a lot of good potential there with her ability to just, you know, buy time and create, be a playmaker, right? And then last but not least, I think she's a good overall athlete. She has an arm that could definitely stretch some defenses, and, you know, it makes you respect her as a thrower. You know, she's not somebody that, you know, has a noodle arm or anything like that. Like, she could air it out for sure. So she definitely has an arm. And then just watching her as well, she is definitely mobile enough to take off or roll out on some throws. Didn't really do it a lot, like really worked as a, you know, like I said, a pocket passer a lot of the time. But if you wanted to roll her out and throw the ball, or even, you know, use her to run with the ball, she could get you a couple yards because she's just a really good athlete there. And so that's what I like about her game. Now, some areas of improvements. Look, I think when it comes to throwing, her timing needs a lot of work. She's only played 2 years of football, though. At least that's what I was able to research here. And it definitely shows at times. And so that could definitely be a chemistry type of deal, because you also got to keep in mind those 2 years of football, one of those years was a COVID year and whatnot. And then, I mean, I guess it still would be a COVID year going into her senior year as well. But still, though, timing definitely needs a little bit more work. If she plays in the Sun Conference, I don't know if Reinhardt will be in the Sun Conference or not. I'll check that out. But I'm sure they're going to be playing teams from the Sun Conference. If your timing's off, DBs are preying on that, and that's more or less an interception, to be honest with you. And so timing just needs some work, but that's nothing she can't accomplish with her teammates. That's just going out, working out, putting in that time to get to know your receivers, know what they like and stuff like that, so that your timing and chemistry with them will be on point. So there you go. Another thing I would like to see her do is just throw a little bit of a wider variety of routes, or work on throwing a wider variety of routes. A lot of the plays I did watch in her film, were just deep. There are deep routes or easier routes towards the sideline, like hitch routes or stuff like that. For her to truly be an elite passer, I think these are the routes that she has to master. And I tell every quarterback this, by the way, that I work with or that I evaluate. If you want to be an elite thrower, you have to be able to complete these throws pretty much 100% of the time, unless the defense is just amazing. And most of these routes usually are timing routes as well, and so I want to see her be able to complete some of these middle and short routes like money. So slants, outs, ins, and post corners are those I want to see her make on a consistent basis. I think that's a good start. I know she could throw deep, and all that. That's great. But when it comes down to the short game, which, in flag football, that's kind of the efficient thing, playing that short game, she has to be good with her timing there. And then I said post corner and in routes just because, those are more or less medium to deep type of routes that require a little bit more touch and timing for sure. And so if she could really master that, then, she could be unstoppable, because like I said, she's a real good athlete, and if she becomes an elite passer, she's going to complete these passes and, or be able to complete these passes at least. Another thing I'd like to see her work on is kind of her mechanics when throwing. Like I said, I don't know how many years she's been playing, but there are, some players who have been playing since middle school or even younger than that, and so that's probably why her mechanics aren't quite there yet. For the most part, I like her footwork, I like her base, but there are definitely times where I'm like, you need to rifle that throw. You need to just throw a missile. Honestly, just throw a missile on this throw here and throw it into tight coverage, because there are some times where I feel like the ball kind of floats a little bit when it shouldn't be. And so I think as she gets stronger and works on her mechanics, that'll continue to improve for sure. So I'm not super worried about it. I'm sure she could figure it out, but it's just really using that torque, really using that lower body planting, and then using those abs to really propel that ball forward here, because I think there are times where she absolutely rifles it in to tough spots. A play that comes to mind is when she's aiming towards the sideline and she just rips a ball, and it looks beautiful, and it hits her receiver right in her hands, on the sideline, and it's a great throw and catch, so she has the ability to do it. I think I just want to see it a little bit more consistent. I want to see that on a little bit more consistent basis here, just seeing her just rip some of these passes into some tight spots here, because I think it's a little bit looser. And then even when throwing deep as well, there are a couple passes where I feel like, hey, you kind of just got to trust your receiver and just rip this one. Don't float it as much, just put it on a line. And so I'd like to see her just continue to work on her mechanics and get stronger. And I think she will. I'm not as concerned about this. That's why I'm talking about it last. And then lastly, this is just a concern, but she has had about 2 years of flag football experience. And I'm not just talking varsity experience, but just experience. At least I believe she has. Flag football in Georgia hasn't been around that long. I think it's been around 3 years at most. And so she will be facing players who have been playing this game since they're in elementary or middle school. Just to be honest with you, some of these Florida girls, they've been playing for over a decade now. And so as a leader and as a founding member of this team, she's going to have to put in work in the film room. I think that really goes without saying, but I just want to throw that out there. It's going to come down to her kind of playing a little bit of catch up here and just being a smart quarterback, and being a smart quarterback means learning offenses, obviously your own and others, and then learning defenses as well, learning what they want you to do. Looking at teams like Thomas University and their vaunted defense and just how well they play, see what they do well and breaking down that defense, because that's a tough one. honestly. And so I think if I was her, I would just really emphasize, just putting in that work in the film room, and also, encouraging your teammates to do that as well. I think that'll be big, as I think she will be, she definitely probably will be a leader of this team, not just because she plays quarterback, but, she seems like a very smart person, a great leader, and all that great stuff. On top of just being a great athlete, for somebody who has been playing this game for not as long as some other players around the country, there's a lot of potential here. I think she's just scratching her potential here. Her best football is ahead of her, for sure. She definitely has the ability to exponentially grow each year, and she's already in a pretty good spot here. Footwork's there. She could throw deep, for the most part. Now, timing may be a little bit off, but that's not hard. Just throw it a half second earlier, and then you're good. She could run a bit. She maneuvers around really well. She has, started for a team before, so it's not like she's a backup with, great athletic ability and maybe not has had, the most amount of time. And so she has experience for sure, and she has a good skill set. I think for her, it's just going to be a matter of developing, and she will get that opportunity over her next 4 years over at Reinhardt. So yeah, there you go. But that is Ashlyn McKinney, quarterback. Like I said, committed to Reinhardt, will be graduating here in the class of 2022. So she'll be part of that inaugural 2023 team. All right, now let's talk about her teammate. Another player committed to Reinhardt in Joelle Jarrett here. She is from Westlake High School up in Georgia. Like I said, committed to Reinhardt University as well. And oh my God, what a player, Like you said, Georgia women's flag football hasn't been around super long. It's been around for 2 or 3 years, and so you just gotta keep in mind that's kind of her experience there. At least playing flag football. She is also a soccer player, and so there are definitely some things here that they show, some things that translate really well. But let me go ahead and let me talk about her strengths here, actually, because there's a lot to talk about. Number one, her ball skills are elite. I looked at her senior film, which isn't even that long. It's like maybe 2 or 3 minutes long, and that's why these film breakdowns aren't as, detailed as they probably could be. But in her film, she is easily probably one of the best pass catchers I've ever seen. And she plays on defense. She's a DB. So I really didn't even see that much offensive film. I think I maybe saw one route, and so I'm watching her like catch these balls on defense. And on this last season, on her senior year, she did have 10 interceptions, which was, I want to say, top 5 in Georgia, which is pretty good. But just watching her play and, seeing her go up for these interceptions, her ball skills are elite. Just look at her senior film. She just possesses an insane ability to catch the ball from multiple angles. There are multiple times she picks off balls because they're low passes. They're either low passes or they're passes that were tipped, and she finds a way to just make excellent catches with her hands and then cradling that thing on the way down so that she has possession. On top of that, she's gonna go ahead and moss somebody too. There are a couple plays where she plays big and physical, which you like to see out of your DBs. And then one-on-one, when she goes up for it, she just mosses players. She has a very, very strong hands here. Just very good hands, honestly. She's somebody that I would probably very much consider putting on offense as well, playing her both ways, because she is that talented. I have not seen many players in the entire country with hands like hers. I think if you want to give her a comparison, and actually, you know what? I'm going to give her a comparison anyways. She's a lot like Caroline Simpson from the University of St. Mary's. And maybe even a little bit better. And Caroline, she did play football in Texas and all that stuff. I'm not disrespecting her. She's a homie of the podcast. But golly, there are just some catches that Joelle makes that I haven't seen Caroline make yet. But they're very similar, though, and also similar in size as well. Joelle's listed at about 5'2". Caroline is in that range as well, height-wise. And so for kind of a smaller player to make these big catches and plays, that's pretty elite. That stands out, And so there you go. I mean, just elite ball skills. Can't praise that enough. On top of that, she's also an elite athlete. Fantastic agility and speed. Her agility allows her to cut on the dime and just be a hard player to shake in general, you know, if you're putting a receiver on her. I mean, I'm watching her return some of these receptions, and then also she's a punt returner as well, and like she could freeze a couple players and drop a couple players just because of how quick she is. You know, just fantastic agility and acceleration as well, because her top end speed is pretty special. You know, when she gets out into space, like she's just a very, very explosive athlete. You know, somebody that you love to put at DB or safety, and they'll just go make a play. You know, you can match them up one-on-one with a lot of receivers, and they'll go step for step with them, plus more. And that's, I mean, that's a gold mine. You know, whenever you find an athlete that's just elite like that, you know, you don't find that every day. You know, and for that type of athlete to be coming to Reinhardt, that is absolutely big time. You know, she's somebody that, like I said, you have to put her on offense as well. I don't know what Reinhardt's numbers are going to look like, I'm just going to be honest, but Joelle Jarrett's just somebody that is too athletic and too skilled to not put on offense and just see what happens, you know, so there you go. Speaking of seeing what happens, her versatility will definitely be a bright spot for this Reinhardt program. She played corner, saw some film at safety. Like I said, she was a returner as well. And then, honestly, her playing multiple spots, especially as a DB, just makes her an absolute weapon on defense. You can move her around and just be like, yo, blanket this player, or blanket this zone, or shut this down, shut that down. And, you know, because of her athleticism, she'll be able to at least be there to make a play. Because of her ball skills, she's going to be able to make a lot of those plays into turnovers for you. And so, I mean, that just adds to it. And then last but not least, very good flag pulling. I have to say that. Very good flag pulling. Breaks down very well. You know, she's a really good athlete, so she's not going to be shook too much, but just the discipline to break down and flag pull is very, very high level. You know, she would start for a lot of teams. I'm just going to be honest. She would start for a lot of teams, you know, in the Sun Conference and even in the KCAC as well, either offensively or defensively. Well, defensively because of her flag pulling, but probably offensively because of her skill set and her athleticism. Now, areas of improvement, I'm going to be honest, I really don't have that much defensively. I watch her backpedal, I watch her in coverage, and she looks seasoned. Like, she looks like a seasoned vet out there. She looks like somebody who knows what she's doing. She's not lost, especially, I mean, one-on-one. You really can't be lost, but there are some corners that are maybe a little over-aggressive. They get burned on double moves, stuff like that. Joelle Jarrett, she is just very disciplined there. And so she's a very sound cover player, you know. So I don't really have too much to talk about her defensively, really. I would just say, you know, she doesn't have a lot of experience. Like I said, played 2 years over here in Georgia, over here at Westlake. And so maybe she hasn't seen the widest variety of offensive schemes. That's probably the thing I'm worried about the most. You know, she hasn't seen a Kaiser-level offense, right? An Ottawa-level offense, even an offense, or like Weber, that utilizes two quarterbacks. And so, you know, you can't just cover your player for 3 or 4 seconds. It could be a little bit longer than that, you know. And so I think for her, just like I said for Ashlyn McKinley, doing film work will be extremely, extremely important. You know, her athleticism and skills will let her get away with kind of a bit. I'm not even gonna lie. You know, she could even make some mental mistakes and still get away with it because of her athleticism and skill. That's how confident I am in her abilities. But if she wants to be a truly elite player on the college level and, you know, contribute to this Reinhardt team to the best of her abilities, film work is going to take her to that next level. Now, the other, I guess, concern or area of improvement is that I just really couldn't find a lot of offensive film. And the one offensive film I could find was from her junior year. I believe it was it had to have been at that Atlanta showcase, because I believe she was at the Falcon Stadium there. They had a little showcase or combine right before or after the national tournament there. But, you know, there was some film of her at receiver. Looked pretty solid. Look, if I was her, I'd be working out at receiver right now. working on route running, working on releases. I think that's a really big part. Working on making catches through traffic in multiple situations. I think that'll be big for her. And then also working on making catches through, physical coverage as well. That's something that, I made that Caroline Simpson comparison earlier on. I think that's something that Caroline works on. She obviously she played like tackle football in Texas, played for Denton Geyer for a couple years there, and so she's used to working through contact and stuff like that, and she still does it. Like in her off-season work, she's gonna have players press up on her, and then she'll try to make catches through contact. That's what makes her special. For Joelle Jarrett to be just like that and even more on offense, she's going to have to make a lot of catches through contact, even if she is getting great separation. It's never a bad thing to do that, because you never know. And so we'll just have to see. Maybe, hey, go hit up Ashlyn McKinley and go run routes for her and get that connection going early on, if you already haven't yet. And so, there you go. But Joelle Jarrett, I think she's an absolute find for Reinhardt here. She did have a couple other offers, nothing too crazy here. Was offered by Bryant and Stratton College. That's a 2-year college, I want to say here as well. And then was also, outside of Reinhardt, was offered by St. Thomas University. St. Thomas obviously having a million great athletes. Adding Joelle Jarrett, she would have been there. Maybe she would have get some playing time, but she probably wouldn't have gotten as much playing time as she probably deserved, as they just have a lot of athletes over there who could do a lot of the same things she does, but have also played longer and are also a little bit taller as well. And so going to Reinhardt, she will be the athlete for the squad, and so she's an absolute find. I think she'll help out this team a lot here, and she's just gonna be a player that you got to look out for come 2023, this next season. She's an excellent player for Reinhardt University, who's looking to have a good first year. As any first year program could hope for, maybe as good a first year as Thomas University. We will see about that though. But that will wrap up that breakdown, and that will actually wrap up this episode of the Playmakers Corner, episode 150, Week 10 recap. Look, this is the future here of football, women's flag football. This is the future here. Postseason is coming up soon here. Next week, myself and Cottey actually will both be on the episode and react to the results of the KCAC tournament. And, actually, before I go into that, let me just put out a quick announcement. Next week, all women's flag football content. Usually, we cover some Colorado players, do some film breakdowns on Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, have a Twitch stream on Tuesday as well. But next week, we're looking at all women's flag football content. Monday, we are going to release a Savannah Cox and Deja Fanning interview. Both the players, Deja plays for Leonard High School. Savannah used to play for Leonard, but she will actually be committing to, she's already committed to Midland to play for their flag football team. So that'll be exciting, hearing what they have to say about their experiences and all that great stuff. And so that interview will come out Monday. Wednesday, we will have our KCAC women's flag football tournament reaction. So me and Cottey will react to that, talk a little bit about, some of the final Sun Conference regular season games, and then we're going to go ahead and preview the Sun Conference tournament on that Wednesday episode as well. And so Wednesday will be a big one. And then on Friday, myself and Cottey, we are going to select a number of women's flag football players to do a film breakdown on, and we'll do it. And so if you have any suggestions of some players you want us to do a breakdown of, and it doesn't matter what level, it could be high school, college, we wouldn't mind doing college, breaking down their game as well. Let us know. DM us. And if you want to DM us on social media, which if you're going to do that, you might as well go ahead and follow us. That's at Playmakers Corner on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well, but on TikTok, just know we can't DM you back. So there you go. But if you have any of those suggestions, go ahead and DM us on social media, show us some love there, give us a follow, and then as well, go ahead and follow us on our Twitch and on YouTube. Our end of the year awards will be on a Twitch live stream, and then that live stream will be posted on our YouTube channel at Playmakers Corner. So go ahead and follow us there. But yeah, next week will be super fun. All women's flag football week, ahead of this Sun Conference tournament, and then the Nationals tournament after that. So yeah, but thank you so much for rocking with us, and we will catch you later.